We left off last video getting our first network call refactored, and I explained all the concurrency async await stuff. In this video, well, one, we're going to clean up all these errors I left, and they're mostly that GF alert on main thread stuff. But we're going to refactor the remaining 2 network calls a little more quicker into this async await for the repetition and for the practice. Maybe you did the challenge in between videos. I hope you did. Hope you challenge yourself and push yourself. But here's we're going to do it together. And to be honest with you, it's pretty similar to what we've already done. So let's go back to our network manager here. We were on get followers. Now let's go to get user info. And if you want to do the whole, copy and comment it out to leave it there for educational purposes, that's fine. I'm not going to do that on these future ones. We've already done that once. That'll be up to you. So first step, let's get rid of this completion handler, right? We don't need this. But before we do, I probably should have done this the first time. Before you just randomly delete stuff, right? What does this return? Okay, this returns a single user. The reason you need to know that is because after you delete the completion handler, you need to return that same type, right? But again, we have to mark this async and throws. And again, similar stuff here, right? We have our endpoint on our URL. We're not calling the completion handler anymore. We're not returning. We're just throwing gf error.invalid username. And then here on our task, we're not even using this task anymore. I'm going to hold off on deleting it quite yet, but we want to do let tuple of data, comma, response equals try await URL session.share.data from, right? And again, make sure you get the async one. As you can see, there's a ton of data task data. Make sure you're doing data from, and then it's async throws. It's what we want. And then from the URL is, again, the URL we got up here on line 86. And then this delegate is optional. We are not going to use that. So now that we have our data and response, again, I just kind of go through and chop away. We no longer need this task. We no longer need this error because this is handled in all the throw stuff, right? So we can still check for our response. So this is similar code, except we're not returning and calling the completion handler. We're just throwing gf error.invalid response. And again, data is not an optional anymore, so we can get that. And by the way, in case you're wondering, we're unwrapping this still because we're casting it as an HTTP URL response. So, response itself isn't an optional, but when you cast it, that's when you do that. So now this decoder, remember we refactored this decoder stuff out, just to refresh your memory. It is up here now. We put it on the network manager itself, and in the initializer, we set these properties. So we did that last video in case you're skipping around. So that just means we can delete that code. Again, that has nothing to do with async await. That's just some quick refactoring to clean this up. And then now that we have our user here, right, just like we did before, I don't need to call completed with this user. I just need to return the user. If I go back up to the function signature, right, it returns a user. So I don't have to call completed, get rid of that. And then, yeah, I could just do return user. Cool, that's the same thing, but I want to put this all on one line, again, for cleanliness. So instead of let user equal, I will return try decoder, and then we're decoding all that stuff. And then instead of calling the completion handler, I call throw gf error.invalid data. And again, we don't need this task.resume anymore. And then I'll highlight this whole function because my indentation got messed up. Hit Control I just to line everything up. Clean up some spacing. You can style it however you like. Some people like to do this on one line. I wouldn't fault you for that. I'll do this one like that just for the sake of, showing different ways to do things. Of course, my text is blown up. I'm going to minimize the text just a little bit. So like if you did want to style it like this, up to you, right? Everybody has different preferences on how they want to structure their code. I'm going to show you a couple different ways as you're seeing here. This could be a way, and then you could line up your equal signs if you want. Totally up to you. But this network call is a lot simpler looking than it used to be. Okay, so that is now our get user info network call. And again, I'll run through it real quick, right? We got our endpoint, and then we create our URL from that username, right? Just make sure it's a valid URL. If it's not a valid URL, we throw the error invalid username. Here, where you get a data response tuple. And remember, these aren't optionals. Back in the old way, these used to be optionals because this new URL session.share.data doesn't return an optional because if it fails, it throws an error. And then here, once we have our response, we check the response code. Again, this is kind of optional, and this is where you can really specify, 404, 500, whatever specific codes. If not, you throw the invalid response. And then with our good data here, we decode the user from that data. If that fails, we throw the gf invalid data error. Okay, so now let's use this. Let's see, where is this being called? Nowhere. Okay, I think it's because we rewrote it. So I believe this is being called in our user info VC. Yep, okay, so here's get user info. So I'll start typing this above it. Again, we know we got to be in a task context. And the reason I know that is because get user info is not marked async, right? So we will put this in a task, and I want to do a do try catch in here. So do let user equal try await, and then our network call, network manager dot share dot get user info for, what do we do? Username, right? User name. And then if that's successful, you see what we did in the success case. Well, here we're switching to the main thread. Don't got to mess with that. So here we'll just basically copy that and put that there. So configure UI elements with user. So that handles that. And then in the catch block, again, because we are showing specific errors for this case, we will do the if let gf error equals error as a gf error, present gf alert down here, and then the title, we can say something wrong, and then the message again is gf error dot raw value, because remember, just to refresh your memory, some of you may have been a while, here on gf error, right, we have our raw values of our error response. So this is what populates the error alert with the specific response based on the error, just in case you haven't done this course in a while and you're returning to see this update. So, and then the button title, we'll just say okay. And then again, the else here, this is where we're just going to present default error. And then I will delete this old way. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, cool. Then we can delete this old way. Again, we're not messing with weak self. We're not dispatching to the main thread. All that is handled for us. So get rid of that. Do a Command B. Okay, I'm actually going to move that up there. I like that. And there are more errors down here. What's going on? Okay, yeah, so this present GF alert on main thread. Remember, we renamed that to just present GF alert. I'm going to start cleaning up some errors here. Just say present GF alert. And again, this is only because we renamed it, because we're not doing it on the main thread anymore. Okay, one more Command B to make sure all of our errors are up to date. Let's click on the errors. I think we're using, oh, okay. I have another copy paste error, I believe, somewhere. Yep, I did it again. Line 95 on the get user info. Too many curly braces here. Okay, let's start cleaning up these errors here, right? All this GF alert on main thread, this renaming it, probably could have done that a little better. I'm sure I'll get corrected in the comments here. And actually, I'm just realizing in real time that our persistence manager, we're using closures here. So we're presenting a GF alert from the background thread. So we will have to add a dispatch queue.main.async and then put that in here. And then also do that on the bottom down there as well. So do dispatch queue.main.async. And you know what, to be honest with you, there's probably a better way to like structure this because I'm focused on the async await in these videos. Kind of just doing this as a patchwork for now, but we really should go back and like refactor and rethink our errors. Maybe we have a specific error that's not on the main thread. Maybe we have a specific one that's on the main thread. That's kind of like refactoring code structure, how you want to do that. And the only reason you would do that is so you don't have to like do dispatch queue.main.async, right? That's kind of refactored away like we had before. Again, that's a whole different rabbit hole. I want to stick to async await and not get too caught up in that. Same thing here with present GF alert here. I got to put this in dispatch queue.main.async. And again, I leave this in, kind of regretting maybe doing that now. We'll see here. Again, I already just mentioned how I would, restructure all of that. Okay. Man, I guess I forgot how much we were using this persistence manager. Dispatch queue. But again, I think this is valuable learning, right? You're watching me do all this, so now you're seeing the value of like, okay, yeah, we should have kept that error and then maybe created a new error that wasn't on the main thread in our UI view controller extension. Okay, this doesn't need to be on the main thread. Command B. Okay, this is what I was searching for, by the way. I was searching for, I knew we were using get user info somewhere else. Kind of got sidetracked with all those errors. So now we need to rewrite this function again with the new task do let user equals try await. And I'm just going to copy this here. See, now that I've done my explaining, I'm starting to get lazy. That's how coders are. So we'll copy that. And then here I need to, in the success case, right, it looks like we're adding user to favorite. And I need to remember to dismiss loading view. I might have forgot to do that the last time. I guess we'll see when I run the app. So I need to add user to favorites. And then that is the user. And then dismiss loading view. And then we're presenting the alert in the catch case. So we're good here. I can delete all that stuff. Make sure I don't have any extra curly braces here. And same thing, right? If let gf error equals error as GF error. Again, this is just us making sure this is of type GF error. If that is the case, we will present GF alert with the title of something went wrong. Message GF error.raw value, and then the button title OK. And then if we don't have a GF error, we just get a Swift error. We'll do present default error. And again, just to reiterate from the last video, the reason we have to do all this is because we're differentiating between our specific errors and then the normal errors. If all you cared about was just the generic error, you could write it that simpler way that I showed in the last video. And again, don't forget to dismiss a loading view. And I'm almost 100% sure I forgot to do that in the other one. So actually, we'll go to user info VC and see where we rewrote this network call, which is right here. And actually, we're not even showing a loading view here, so I don't have to dismiss it. Okay. Can't remember the UI reasons we did that. Again, it's been almost 2 years since I created this course. So it's been a while coming back to it, but that's also good practice. So hopefully those of you coming back to this that maybe did it way back in the day, it's a good practice in like when you come back to a code base you haven't really touched in like 2 years, it's good practice kind of getting used to that situation. Okay, so Command B, we have no more errors, right? We're good on that one? Yep, no errors. Let's run the app. I realized I didn't run it last video to make sure our network calls are still working. So hopefully they're still working. If not, I'm really gonna hate myself because I'm gonna have to re-record both these videos, and it's been like an hour and a half of recording. Fun stuff. Okay, fingers crossed. Okay, so let's add my username. Please work. Hey, okay, cool. Working as expected. And then get user info. I'll go to Max here. That pulled it up, working as expected. Let's do get followers here. Cool, working as expected. Go back and cool. Favorites, dun, 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 dun. Yep, nice. All right, so we'll stop that. Okay, so the network calls are still working. Really did not want to re-record all these. Now the last one is in our network manager, right? So this one's gonna be a little different, right? So get user info and get followers were very, very similar. Download image is a bit different because remember, we're not handling errors here, our GF error and all that stuff, because if we can't get the image, we're just showing a placeholder. We're not gonna show them an error for every image we can't get. We're just gonna show the placeholder. So this will be an example of when we don't care about the error. Okay, so just like before, right? Okay, we are returning an optional UI image. Again, that's us not caring. We're gonna return nil if we don't get it. So let's get rid of our completion handler here and down to there, but we still need the URL string. But this now returns an optional UI image, right? And then we're not gonna mark it throws. We're just gonna mark it async. The reason we're not marking it throws, because we don't care about the errors. Like I said, I only wanna mark it throw if I wanna make sure I send a specific error. Remember, all we care about is, do I have an image or is it nil? That's it. So that's really going to simplify things. So here, if let image, we're basically just seeing if the image is in the cache. So instead of calling completed image, we're just going to return image. And I can get rid of that completed line. And in fact, because that is such a simple line of code, again, this is code style. If you want to put it on one line, cool. If you don't, cool. We're gonna really jumble this up here. Again, same thing with the URL. If we have a bad URL, we're just gonna return nil, right? We don't care about the error specifically, just return nil. That's all I care about. Do I have an image or do I have nil? Super simple. Okay, cool. We're gonna bring this up here. Now, back to what we did before. We don't want this whole big task. I'm gonna leave that here for now, but we're gonna do let the tuple of data, comma, response, and I typed that out, but we're gonna actually change that here in a second. So try, await, URL, session.share.data from, again, it's the async throws ones, and URL, which again, what we have up here on line 100. We don't need the delegate, so that's pretty simple. Now, down to, so I'm going to delete this line. Now look at all, we're kind of doing this already where we combine everything, but let's kind of walk through this step by step. I don't care about the response anymore. Like if we went up here, how we're handling the response, right? Status code. Again, we don't care about errors. It's either nil or it's an image, one of the two. So I don't even need this response. So instead of giving it a name, I'm going to just give it the unnamed variable here. Okay, we don't need guard self equals self. We don't care about the error because we don't have to do that. We don't care about the response. We're not unwrapping the data because again, this isn't an optional. We already have our data. And then here I'm gonna get rid of these completion handlers. We don't need those to clean those up. So get rid of that, get rid of this completed image. Okay, so now here's where I'm gonna get rid of this task resume. We're gonna clean up before we start writing it. So here we have our data if this try is successful. So I'm gonna put this in a do actually. So this is again, slightly different. Like I mentioned before, there's many different ways you can write this kind of stuff depending on like your situation, I guess is the best way to put it. So here is the do, right? So the try is always in the do, and then I'll complete this here and we'll do catch. If I have the good data, that's where I'm gonna say let image equal that data, right? Let image equal UI image from data. And then once I have that image here, you see I need to basically set it to the cache. Now, this is kind of like jumbled up code here. Again, I'm just kind of cleaning up before I make it official here. And I'll explain everything once I get done. So in the catch block, we just want to return nil. If like any of this stuff fails, we want to return nil. Well, I can't set nil for the key here. So I need to make sure I have a good image. So like I said, I just kind of put all this stuff in the do block before I messed with it. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure I have a good image from UI image. So let's cut this, and then I'll do guard let image equals UI image, else return nil, right? So if for some reason, even though we got good data, if for some reason that data couldn't be converted to an image, then we want to return nil and just show the placeholder. So now that I have an image here, I'm setting the object in the cache, right, of image because I know it's good. And then now I can also return image, right? Because if you look, we need to return a UI image. Okay, so now that I have all this code, I know that was jumbled. I know that was out of order because I was trying to clean all this stuff up. Let me do a Command B to make sure everything's good. We got errors, but that's where we call download image. Okay, so let me run through this code real quick. So here we are, the function signature of download image, which we take a URL string. That's the URL string that we get, from our model. We marked it async, but we didn't mark it throws because we don't care about the error. It's either nil or it's not. That's all we care about, and we're returning an optional UI image. This cache stuff is all the same, right? How we're either pulling it from the cache, and if it's not in the cache, then we try to download it, right? So that's what this does, right? If let image equals cache object for key, then we return that image. If that's not, then we go ahead and run the download it, right? That's the same old stuff we did. And then here we make sure we have a good URL. If we have a good URL, now we do our data from URL await. Once that comes back, our data is good. And if it's not, it's going to go into the catch block, which will return nil, and we show our placeholder. Cool. Then the next thing is now that we got our good data, we try to build an image from that data. And if that data can successfully return an image, cool, we move on. If not, we return nil. And then now that we have a good image from that data, we save our image into the cache, and then we return the image. We have a good image. We're going to show that, not the placeholder. And again, if any of this fails, we go into the catch and we return nil. So that's the much simplified version from what we had before. Now let's go and call this here. So going to follow the errors here, right? Download image, network manager share.download image from URL. Again, we don't need this whole completion, nor do we need the guard let self equals self return, nor do we need to dispatch to the main thread. We can actually put this pretty much on one line. I'm going to put it down here, right? So it does need to be in a task just like before because this function isn't marked async. And what we can do is basically this whole like self.image equals image, we kind of put that into here where we can do image equals await and then network manager.shared.download image from the string is the URL that we pass in. And then we can use some simple nil coalescing, right? If that returns nil, we'll do placeholder image, right? So run the network call. If it returns nil, because back to our network call, remember that's the two options. I'm either going to get an image or nil. I don't care about errors. So if I get an image, great, set the image equal to that. And we don't got to go to the main thread, that's handled for us. And if this returns nil, then just show the placeholder image. And then we can delete all this code. And then like I said, I'm going to make this a one-liner. Seems like a nice candidate for it. So now our download image function looks like that. Okay, let's run our app to make sure everything is working, really with just the images, right? Because I've already tested this other stuff, 0400, get followers. Cool, the images are downloading as expected. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Cool, yep, there we go. And they're cached just like before. Things are working as is. So that is the wrap up. Let me go to the network manager. We really simplified our download image because we don't care about the errors. Async await really shines when you don't care about the errors because you can see how like simple that is. And then in our avatar image view, that was just one line. That's awesome. When you care about showing specific errors and you got your own error type, again, it gets a little more complex, but hopefully you've seen a couple different versions of it. Again, this is brand new. Remember, I don't claim to be an expert, right? This literally just released a couple weeks ago. So it's not like I've been dealing with async await for years. No one has. Brand new stuff. So I am not going to be immune to errors, or maybe there's a better way to do things. This is all brand new. So I would love to see the discussion in the comments. If you have a different way, if you have a better way, I'm open to it, right? Because again, brand new stuff. We're all learning together. But hopefully this is a good introduction into this new world of concurrency. Read the resources I linked to in the last video. That'll really get you going down the rabbit hole because again, this is a big deal. This is a whole new big system that's going to take multiple Swift releases to roll out. But again, hopefully this is a good start for you.